Um, Hello, everyone. I'm welcome all on Data Phoenix webinar. Today we have a very interesting topic about generate code and do uh, code review using AI and Gen AI technology, which are very hot today. We got a lot of registration to this webinar, so I hope we will have very interesting and good conversation in QA session. Um, um, Today, the MC of the webinar will be Dmitro Savchenko, and I give to him mic, so he will run this webinar today.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you, Dima, for introduction. So today we are gonna have Sahil Bansal, that worked in different roles for a long time in infrastructure and AI agentic space. So he knows a lot about like using AI and application of it. And he was helping to drive adoption of AI-powered code review solutions, and he's now like working on something even more interesting and trying to uh, make our lives as the software engineers better and easier. And Sahil will now present his product, which is called CodeRabbit, and it's a AI code review platform that I personally was looking at for some of my projects. And uh, I would like Sahil to talk more about that. Sahil will present whatever he wants to present today, and then we'll have a Q&A session after that. And everyone will have a chance to ask the questions if they will have any. And I believe we'll have a very fruitful and interesting discussion. So, Sahil,
Thank,
please, your stage.
thank you, Dimitro, and thank you everyone for joining. It's a lovely Tuesday morning. I'm based here in San Francisco, and it's great to have so many of you showing interest in end-to-end AI agentic coding. Specifically, we will be talking about the code review side. Now, as many of you are probably aware, there's been a lot of involvement of different companies and different innovation on the code generation side. But for those of you who might have heard about CodeRabbit, you will know that we really pioneered the space of AI code reviews. CodeRabbit has been around for almost 2.5 years now. It was the first company that raised capital and built out a GA product that focused exclusively on the code review point. And I'll talk about why we chose to focus on the code review aspect. This is just to give you a sense of the kind of some of the customers who use CodeRabbit for their code review needs, and we're really seeing the space evolve as what our CEO likes to say, second order effect of the AI for code generation. We all know that the first real big use case of LLMs has landed with code generation, and with that, what I'm really hearing the more I talk to people based here in San Francisco, even I'm traveling around the country, around the world, is that engineers are really starting to feel that pain of there being so much code to review and not enough tools to help them review the code. So if we just take a step back, if you think about 7 years ago, maybe there is no such thing as LLMs or AI. Maybe the pandemic never happened. How are we doing code reviews, in a before Gen AI world? If you were a small team, maybe you were probably not even just doing any kind of systematic code reviews. Maybe you just go straight from your ID to production, or you just open a PR and your colleague just does a very very quick informal kind of a peer review. And that was true for smaller teams. I would say maybe less than 25 engineers, less than 20 engineers, where the peer reviews or the code reviews were not really formalized. In bigger companies, we're talking hundreds of engineers. There, the code reviews were absolutely critical because now you have so much code you don't want to ship out bugs in production. So you do tend to have formal processes, but they're time consuming, and they especially take up the time of the senior engineers. who are trying to review the code of their more new colleagues who might have just joined the team. And the code reviews had always been the release bottleneck. The reason why our co founders, who were both engineering managers in their own day jobs before working on CodeRabbit, the reason why they saw this as a real pain point was because an engineering manager is measured by how quickly their team is releasing features. Right now, having code being generated is obviously a critical component of how to release the features faster. But if your bottleneck starts to become slower and slower in the SDLC pipeline, then it doesn't matter how quickly you're generating the code if your ultimate objective is to make sure the code is released faster. Hopefully nobody on this call is really releasing code into production without actually doing code reviews, right? We can't rely on the LLM generated code to be completely bug free. And with that more and more code coming down the pipeline, the problem of the reviews being manual, slow, time consuming, that becomes an increasing pain point. And you might have seen these recent news articles. There was a study by the MIT Technology Review, and I've been seeing another one by METR, which is another metrics measurement framework. And they've been saying that dev teams are reporting that they're not actually seeing a lot of ROI from adopting simply code generation tools. Their AI projects are not actually making them 30% faster, 40% faster, maybe not even 20% faster in many cases, because it takes them so much time to go back and review the code manually. So that manual code review process is what we aim to solve. So our customers use us. Number one, start the code review immediately. You might have felt this pain point in your own daily lives, right? Like maybe you open a pull request, you tag your colleague for a code review. Maybe nobody is available, they're busy firefighting on something else. Maybe they are in a different time zone. And the PR doesn't even get picked up for reviews for 1 days or 2 days or sometimes even 3 days. We've seen that. So the use of this automated code review technology, first benefit is just start the review immediately. The moment you open a PR, the review starts immediately within minutes. Second is, just by the very nature of how humans think about code reviews, we will eventually miss out on some hard to find bugs, race conditions, or uh, patches, expired certificates. There will be things that we miss out, concurrency blockers, that an algorithm might be more suited to identify. So it can help you reduce the number of bugs than you might with just pure manual reviews. And then the thirdly is just looking beyond code reviews, right? Just looking at the whole SDLC release cycle. Customers use us to do things like automate their documentation generation or unit test generation, or creating some sort of pre-merge before you merge a PR, some sort of code quality checks. Is my code actually meeting certain standards that I wanted to? So those are the top three use cases that we've seen customers adopt CodeRabbit for. And we're growing pretty aggressively. We're really seeing a very strong pull in the market because everybody's at this point in time is using AI coding agents. And now we're starting to also see the same companies, the same teams starting to look into the problem of code reviews. So the whole market, the whole landscape of code reviews is now starting to show the same signs of acceleration and growth that we saw with AI coding agents. This is a quick example, and I know I say 8,000 customers over here, but this deck is from 1 month ago, and that is just how quickly this space is evolving. Today we are almost pushing 10,000 customers, and this is Thomas is from Groupon. He shared this on his LinkedIn profile. When Groupon was doing manual code reviews, their code review to production time, including the time that the PR is sitting idle when nobody is looking at the pull request, was almost 3.5 days, 86 hours. And they were able to bring that down to under an hour. Now, this still involves a manual review, but it doesn't involve multiple rounds of manual reviews. The AI algorithms can do the first pass, and then the human can come in and do the sanity check and accept or deny some of the AI feedback. And I'll show you that in the demo. But to me, this was like a real, eye opener that this is such a big pain point in companies like Groupon and even smaller sized companies where your PR is sitting idle for days. So first thing is your review starts immediately. You as the developer don't have to keep on waiting. And then the next thing is that it can help you drop your bug count in production. So faster reviews, the review starts immediately, better code quality and fewer bugs. They are just the initial benefits, the near term benefits that you might observe if you start to use an AI code review tool, right? This is something you might notice after just opening a few PRs, maybe in a week or even in a matter of few days. You will start to see that your reviews are faster and you're shipping fewer bugs. But the longer term business value of is more around centralizing code quality guardrails. It's around having a central knowledge base where you can really bring in all the quality checks. I am using 5 different coding agents, maybe, but I want my reviewer to be a single independent layer so that it can evaluate the code from all the coding agents. And that can, the faster speed of shipping that can ultimately end up reducing your tech debt, helping you ship more faster that your customers are happier with, and that can overall lead to the business having a improved bottom line and happier customers. So these are longer term benefits that our customers have reported over a matter of months, maybe over uh, 1+ year now. Some of our early adopters have been using us for almost coming up to 2 years now. These are near-term benefits that you will start to realize within a matter of days. But the number one question that I get asked, and some of you might be thinking about this as you're thinking about the questions for our conversation later on, is wait, hang on. I've heard that Cursor has Bugbot and Copilot can do PR reviews, and when I'm talking to my coding agent tells me that the code is bug-free. So why do I need an separate code review tool? And this answer is a little bit philosophical and a little bit technical. The philosophical aspect is a little bit more around it's very hard for you to review your own work, right? Before coding agents, we didn't ask developers to self review and self certify their own code. If I'm writing the code, I can't come in and say, okay, great, I shipped this feature or I made this PR. Yeah, the PR is obviously bug free, it meets all the standards. That we never did that. We always asked a colleague, a peer to come in and to review our code. Why? Because it's really hard to find mistakes in our own work. Otherwise, we wouldn't have made the mistake in the first place when generating the code. And that doesn't change with AI agents, right? The reason why certain bugs might slip through during the code generation process, it could be because of the coding agent architecture, maybe the LLM hallucinates, maybe certain heuristics or certain shortcuts were used by the developer, or maybe the developer forgot some internal coding standards. There can be so many things that can go wrong. The LLM I've seen, sometimes even just completely makes up function names or API calls even. And that can lead to catastrophic effects. And if you just have an independent reviewer, and that independent reviewer is obviously not a simple LLM call, the chances of the bugs escaping to production become much more lesser. And the architecture that you need for code reviews is a very different architecture that you need for code generation. So this code review layer is really a completely independent product. I would encourage you, all of you, to Think about this as a replacement of your manual code reviews, and not, rely simply on the coding agent told me that it can review my PR and it said my PR is good to go. You can't rely on the coding agent to find bugs in its own code that it generated. So you need an independent auditor, an independent reviewer that can deliver the same review quality across your whole code base, whether that's human generated, whether that's legacy code, whether that's AI generated code. And that has features or capabilities that are exclusively focused around the code review aspect. And that's why we are seeing all of our customers are using us along with their coding agent, and not, not relying on simply the coding agent to say, okay, I reviewed the PR and it's good to go. So how do you use CodeRabbit? And I'll show you these different ways of using CodeRabbit in a demo. There are broadly three ways of using CodeRabbit for code reviews in different places, different platforms. You might be more comfortable working with a CLI in your terminal, could be Cursor CLI, could be Codex CLI, any of the CLIs. You might be more comfortable with VS Code, IDE, or JetBrains, or any other code editor. And then there is the all the major Git platforms: GitHub, GitLab, Azure DevOps, Bitbucket. So we do reviews in all these three major platforms: in the CLI, in the IDE, and in your Git platforms before you finally release the code. Our CLI and our ID reviews are completely free. Our PR reviews, they also come with a free trial, but that's our subscription product. And typically, we see that customers adopt us in their Git platform for their PR reviews across the whole team. Whoever is needs to open a pull request, they are going to be the one that is going to invoke the code reviews. And typically, if you're working in a 20 people developer team, almost everybody, or majority of the people in the team will be opening a pull request at some point. The CLI and the ID reviews, they are obviously in your individual environment. They're not the team collaboration tool, and they are free, right? So we have a CLI agent that you can run with a simple curl command, and I'll show you that. We have an ID extension that you can go and identify from the VS Code marketplace or the Cursor marketplace. Same with Windsurf, and you can install it and you can get the reviews in your ID. And by the time you all of your colleagues push the code in the PR, hopefully you've done at least one round of reviews either in the CLI or in the ID, and then you push it for a final round of reviews in the PR, where all of your code comes together. So CLI reviews and ID reviews are completely free. PR reviews come with a free trial before the subscription kicks in. And this is again just another different way to visualize it. Just again emphasizing the point that we are really seeing the industry treat these as two completely different market segments: code generation and code reviews, because you want your reviewer to be an independent entity. You don't want Bugbot, which uses the same agent, to review cursor generated code. You can't rely on Copilot PR reviews to say, yeah, the code generated by the Copilot coding agent is good to go. You want to have an independent coding agent that can come in and do that reviews. And remember, I talked about the code review also needs to have a different architecture, a different way of thinking. So this is essentially sort of like the um, I don't really want to call it an architecture diagram, but this explains our approach. Um, Everything revolves around how you build the context for the LLMs, right? Everybody has the same LLMs accessible to them. So if all that we're doing is just sending our code diff to OpenAI or Anthropic or Gemini or whatever, then you're not really building the context, and you're not going to get high quality code reviews. CodeRabbit deliberately does not do fast code reviews, because our code reviews take time to build this context, And then we do iterative loops multiple times with the LLMs before we are happy with the review quality, and then we pass that back to the user. So how does our context engineering approach work? Well, everything first starts with cloning the code in your repository. Most of our customers use our SaaS, and our SaaS runs in GCP, and your code is kept safe in a sandbox, isolated sandbox, no external access, and it's just where we do the code reviews. It's where we build the context before sending the LLM prompt. And then the LLM prompt is worked upon by the LLM, and then the review comments come back, and we post the comments to your PR or C or ID or wherever. But your code remains safe in the sandbox. For some of our bigger, more security conscious customers, we also have a container image, and you can run that container image in any VPC, in your cloud VPC, in your on-prem VPC, wherever you want. We do have customers with more than 1,000 engineers. Their teams are thousands of engineers, where CodeRabbit is deployed in a self-hosted fashion, where they do all the reviews. And so in that case, your code also remains in your private VPC. Then we do what we call a code graph analysis. This is a dependency mapping. If there are functions in a certain file and there are calling other functions in other parts of your code in other files, what does that mapping look like? We generate this code graph every time a review is triggered, so that we can really understand the downstream dependencies. If something has changed in file one, what is it going to cause in terms of files 2, 3, 4, etc., even if those files might not be included in the code diff that is being reviewed. We want to have a full picture of your code graph. And if you think about it, this is exactly what you would have done if you were doing the reviews manually, right? Somebody tags you in a PR, you first come in and you try and understand, hang on, what is happening in this pull request? You don't immediately start going and writing feedback on their lines of code. You try and understand, okay, what are the requirements? And for that, we look at your issue tickets, maybe linear tickets or Jira tickets or GitHub issues. If those are attached to a pull request, then we will treat those as requirements that the pull request is addressing. And we understand what the requirements are. We also have an MCP client where you can bring in your MCP server, and any remote MCP server should work. We've had customers who use Notion MCP server, where they keep the requirements in a Notion doc, Figma MCP server for architecture diagrams, uh, Sentry MCP server for logs, Context 7 for documentation, and so on. So that also helps us gather context about many different things, logs, requirements, architecture, and so on. Then you can set up custom instructions. These custom instructions can be set up as a glob pattern for certain files in certain directory. Always check for the latest JavaScript style guide, as an example. This is very commonly used, when you want certain rules, certain instructions to only apply to certain files. Um, you might have your coding agent rules file. We call this code agent guidelines, right? Your cursor rules file, your copilot instructions file, any kind of agents markdown file. We will bring in the rules from those because you use those rules to generate the code. So we should keep those in mind when we are reviewing that code. Our chat is also very agentic. You can literally chat with us like you would chat with any other human colleague, and so you can give us feedback. Hey, I like this review, I don't like this review, or ask more questions. Why did you recommend this, or wasn't this fixed before? And I'll show you a couple of examples of these. We also look at your past PR history. If there was a similar bug, how was that bug fixed in the past? And that helps us improve the context and the review quality, because if we know if there are similar types of bugs and you fix those bugs in a certain way in the past, you're more likely to fix that same bug with that same approach in future. There are also more than 40 linter checks that are built out of the box. Right, so nothing groundbreaking over here, but you get 40 linters out of the box. You don't have to do any config. Those linter checks are automatically included. And sometimes the LLMs will not be up to date, right? Maybe there's a new security patch, a new release that just went out, and your code base could benefit from that security patch, or you are upgraded to the latest software release, but the LLM hasn't been upgraded fully yet. So we run real-time perplexity web queries. The fact that we use perplexities doesn't matter to you, but we run real-time web search, and we get information about that latest release, and we incorporate that in the review comments. This is, as you can see, a very extensive context engineering approach, and this is why our reviews do take 5 minutes, 7 minutes before they start to kick in. And then we also have a built-in verification agent that runs automatic shell scripts up to 10 times repeatedly to verify that the comments that came back from the LLM, there are no hallucinations in those. If the LLM is saying something about a function call, does that function actually exist in your code base? Did the LLM just completely make up an API call? So based on your config settings and your code base, we will run a verification loop on the LLM comments that came back, and then we will post them back to your pull request or in your ID or wherever you're using the code reviews. So that's our architecture approach. You will notice that this is a very in-depth context engineering approach. Our LLM prompt is almost a 50-50 ratio of the code diff and the context that we build. And it's not just packaging all the context, otherwise we'll just completely blow past the context window. We build the right level of context, and we compact it when necessary, and we prune it and filter it as necessary. And so that's essentially the engineering work that we've done in-house. So let me show you, if you wanted to try this, what will it actually look like for you. So most customers will go start by going to our website. If you're using CodeRabbit for the first time, go to our website, click on get a free trial, and pick your preferred Git platform. Let's say if you're using GitHub, that's what you're going to use the authentication for. So log in with your GitHub credentials. And if you're using it for the first time, it will prompt you to ask, hey, what repositories do you want to give me access to? These are just some repos that I have access to. You are in our SaaS portal, but honestly, the SaaS portal is really just for reporting, metrics, and config settings. Most of your time you're going to spend with your code base, and where CodeRabbit is leaving the feedback in your code base. But what kind of config settings do you have? So let's say you want to provide some custom instructions. So here we have what we call the path instructions. For example, in this case, these can be repo specific. So for all TypeScript files in my repository where I'm configuring this, I can provide instructions in the natural language, right? So for example, I'm saying do not allow the use of ESLint disable, etc. Whatever makes sense for your code base. Um, you can also filter out certain files. You can say things like, I don't want to include SQL files in the code reviews. Um, you can reduce the number of files. Chill versus assertive mode, this is just nitpicks. If you use assertive mode, there will be more nitpick comments. Some users prefer to have those in their reviews. I typically leave it at the chill mode. And then there's a whole bunch of other config settings for different kinds of workflows. The ones that I typically mostly think about is, do I want my reviews to start automatically? So sometimes I will leave this on, but sometimes I might only want the initial review, and I don't want future reviews to be automated. Or I might want the reviews on PRs that carry certain labels. Maybe I want these only on PRs that carry a label of bugs or feature or whatever. I can also pick and choose my branch where I want the reviews. Otherwise, by default, it's going to review the PRs that are merging into your main branch. Um, then there is a lot of the linters that are built in. So these config will come with their own built-in config file, but you can provide your own config file if you prefer to use. Otherwise, by default, we will use the built-in config file. There are pre-merge checks. So these are code quality guardrails, right? So for example, you can define something like, give me a warning message if my PR has less than 80% coverage in terms of doc strings, or block the PR from merging if there is no PR title that is descriptive enough, or unit tests if there's just not enough unit tests, block the PR from merging. So you can set your own custom checks. There is a built-in knowledge base. This knowledge base is coming from external data sets. For example, your coding agent files, uh, if they are in their default path, they will be automatically picked up from there. If they are not in the default path, then you can give us the path of those instructions files. We will automatically also learn from your previous Jira tickets or your past linear tickets, past PRs, MCP servers. So these are all external data sets that add on to it. And you can also use us for generating unit tests or doc strings, and you can provide certain instructions for those as well. So these are just some bunch of config settings that you can do, but it will work out of the box. So what are we going to do? Let's say um, I am in my ID. So first thing I'm going to do is I will show you what this looks like in VS Code. Right now I'm in my VS Code environment. So let's say I go to the um, extensions marketplace, and you can search CodeRabbit here, and you will find the CodeRabbit extension. Installing is pretty easy. If you're using it for the first time, it will ask you to start a free trial. So just follow the on-screen instructions, and then go about your doing your code changes however you want to do. I was just vibe coding a AI fitness coach app. You know, a lot of the AI fitness coach apps, they tend to ask you to enter your own calorie count, especially if your food might not be something that they are familiar with. So I tend to eat a lot of ethnic Indian food, and sometimes the AI fitness coach app database just doesn't know the calorie count of my Indian food. So I was trying to build something where we could have an image scanner, and then it could run a web search in the background and bring in the calorie count from publicly available information. Just something simple as a personal project. It doesn't matter what you're building. I happen to be using Klein as my coding agent. It's just something that I find works for me. But again, you can use any coding agent you want. And I've gone through some code changes that I've done. The changes are um, staged in a commit, but they're not pushed to my GitHub repo. So what I can do here is this would have been, clickable. I already went ahead and triggered a review because, as I said, the reviews do take 5 to 7 minutes. So before coming on this call, on this webinar, I went ahead and triggered a review. But you will see this option, review all changes, or you can review just uncommitted changes as well. And so here, let's see what kind of issues CodeRabbit has found. So in this case, it is saying some function lacks implementation. So this seems like it's a functional bug based on whatever I was trying to build my AI fitness coach app. The spec sheet, the code actually doesn't matter, meet the spec sheet. Let's look at some other examples. In this case, it is saying the worker service registration had unhandled edge cases. So it is missing some online data validation, and there are some edge cases. Sounds like something I should probably fix. So we have this integration over here. I don't know if you can see it. It's really small, but it says fix with AI. So if I click on this, it will convert my um, review comment into a prompt that the coding agent can understand. And you see the coding agent is automatically executing it. All I had to do was just click on that one link, go ahead and execute this. So client has started working on it, but you can set whatever coding agent you want. So for example, you might be using native in VS Code, which would be Copilot, Cloud Code, Codex, whatever you are using, you can set your coding agent, and then that's the coding agent that our integration will send the prompt to. Let's look at maybe one more. So in this case, some schema is missing for model tracking. So let's see if we can also fix this. So we'll go ahead and click on this again, and the prompt has been sent to my coding agent, and the coding agent is implementing it. Based on obviously my chat with the coding agent, it will add that to the same commit, and then I can open a pull request. So this was my review in my local environment. Hopefully my other colleagues are also doing their own reviews in their own local ID, but we still want to do a team-wide review, right? Once the PR is open. So what does that look like? So here, this is a pull request where all the commits from across my team, they've been sent in. These are all from open source repos. We are, by the way, completely free for open source repos. If you are working on any open source projects, you can just go ahead and use CodeRabbit. As long as it is a public repository, you will not need to pay for CodeRabbit for the public repository. But you see here, the reviewer was automatically assigned as the CodeRabbit. And this will look at all the commits, all the file changes that are happening, and it will generate a helpful summary. What is actually happening in this PR? Looks like some new features are being released, some bug fixes, some updates to documentation, and then you get a more detailed file by file breakdown. There could obviously be a whole bunch of files that were included in this PR. So, what are the changes in each file? Then there is a helpful sequence diagram. A lot of our customers really like this. Helps them orient what is happening. For example, in this case, the user is coming through a browser, which is calling the app server, which is checking the session against the my Supabase. Makes sense. Um, and then there was a GitHub issue that was attached to the PR. So this is the GitHub issue. We treat that as the requirements for this PR. So CodeRabbit has assessed and left feedback. Okay, all the requirements that were there in this, they are actually being met by the PR. But maybe there might not be. Somebody might have missed it. And so in that case, it will say, okay, partially met or not met with an explanation of what has not been met. Now let's look at some actual review comments. So just like how you saw in the ID, here are some review comments that CodeRabbit has left. In this case, for example, this is authentication check. If the check fails, how is the code going to handle it? Okay, we should have some way of handling auth check failures. If this was my PR, I would have a one-click button over here that I can just click on, and I could make the changes directly to this PR. Or again, it is converted into a prompt. I can copy the prompt, and I can take that prompt back to my coding agent, let it make the changes, and add that as a new commit to the PR. Let's look at a few other examples. So in this case, again, there is some functional bug based on what the PR was doing. Here you see the PR history that I was talking about. We look at the past PRs, and these are some examples of related PRs that were related to the current PR. So we are extracting some context from those past pull requests. Here is an example of the verification work that was done, right? The review came back from the LLM. There is a verification agent that runs an analysis chain to make sure that the review comment is actually going to be useful. And once you make the actual code changes, even if you forget to mark this comment as a result, we will automatically detect, okay, you made the code changes in certain commits, and so this is now considered as a resolved comment. Here is an example of what I mentioned, that it's really easy. It's a very agentic capability. You can chat with it just like you would chat with a human user. Maybe your team wants you to create new Jira tickets, or maybe the code change being recommended, the fix being recommended is complicated enough that you want to create a GitHub issue or a new Jira ticket for it, or a new linear ticket for it. You can simply tell CodeRabbit, go ahead and create a ticket, and it can automate that for you. So in this case, it has created a new GitHub issue. Here is another example. So in this case, based on what the code base was doing, there was a error status code 400. But we are recommending, hey, no, actually, based on what the logic is in the code, instead of a 400, you should throw a 404 error message. And so the user says and comes and says, okay, great, I've made this change. And CodeRabbit recognizes this. Okay, yeah, this comment is resolved. Here, notice this is outside diff range comments. So these are still things that we are recommending that you should change, but this is coming from that code graph analysis, right? We notice some files changed in this PR, and they're going to cause breaking changes on other files that are outside the diff range of this PR. So we are also identifying those outside diff range comments. And this looks like this was a case where a secure password hashing algorithm wasn't used. So we are recommending changing the password hashing algorithm. I also quite often see completely plain text passwords. Users still sometimes leave plain text username and password. So we will catch those as well. Here is an example again of the agentic chat. The user asks us to do a review of their whole code against various things like security vulnerabilities, test coverage, documentation. So things could look good from a security and performance standpoint, but looks like they are lacking some test coverage and documentation, docstrings coverage. So you can just ask us to generate a unit testing file, and CodeRabbit can do that. It can just generate the unit test or the docstrings file for it that you can add as a stacked PR on top of this current PR. Here is another example that I really like. So in this case, the user was importing all these function classes separately, and the AI perhaps intelligently said, there's no reason to import these separately. You could just do a wildcard import. The user says, no, it's just not my company's coding standard. We just don't do star imports in my team. So we will remember this as a learning. So this will automatically be remembered in our code base. This is an example of how the reviews improve over time. The more you interact with it, the more you give feedback, just in complete natural language, it will learn from you and it will improve those. So in our future reviews, it is not going to recommend wildcard imports. So this is an example of the reviews learning over time. Here is a example of a race condition, right? These are really hard to identify, especially during manual reviews. So there is a potential race condition over here, and we're recommending the changes to avoid that race condition. And there should be an example of a MCP server. Yeah, so this is an example where we used a linear MCP server. So you can see that over here under MCP. A linear MCP server was configured. And based on the code in this PR, the agent was intelligent enough to go and search from the linear MCP server, and it found a ticket that was relevant to the code base. This is that linear ticket. This ticket says, make sure that we do not include this function, calculate some function, because this function already exists. Well, what happened? Actually, that function was again called out in this PR. Now, there's nothing wrong with the function. It just already exists elsewhere in the code base, and that was the requirement in this linear ticket. So we get this context from your linear MCP server, and we include that, and we flag this. Hey, this should not be included because that is the requirement from this ticket. And you also see an example over here of the pre-merge checks, right? So, for example, if the docstrings coverage is insufficient, the title is too vague, then the PR merge can be blocked. This helps you build more like a guardrail so that the human reviewer can come in and actually verify that the code quality standards are met. Now, the last thing I will show you is, remember I did mention that we do have a CLI based agent. So now just because I don't have my current terminal functioning properly, so I'm just going to have to show you that in a pre-recorded demo video. But in this case, I was using my Cloud Code CLI. And so I go ahead and give some instructions in natural language to Cloud Code, and I tell it, run the CodeRabbit review. I already have the CLI agent for CodeRabbit installed. I tell Cloud Code, run the CodeRabbit review. That's the trigger for the CLI reviews, and address any fixes. I'm telling Cloud Code, hey, execute the CodeRabbit review. And if CodeRabbit tells you any feedback, then you have my freedom to go ahead and acknowledge it. So that's Cloud Code has created a fix, and these are the comments that came from the CodeRabbit reviews. As I mentioned, the reviews do take 5 to 7 minutes, so that's why this video is a little bit sped up. But these are the review comments, and now you can see Cloud Code is automatically going ahead and making those fixes based on the comments that CodeRabbit had recommended. So here's fixing some RLS policies, some user profile field validation, error handling. This is now the agents talking to agents. That's what I meant by the title of this webinar, end-to-end agentic coding. I have, in my case, it could be, I'm using Cloud Code CLI, but you could be using any agent, right? So your coding agent is doing the work, an independent reviewer comes in, gives it some feedback, coding agent incorporates it. That's your full end-to-end agentic loop. Agents for code generation, agents for review, and again, agents for incorporating the review back in your code base. So that's my quick demo. I will pause over here and we can take some questions. Dimitri, back to you.
Hi, sure. Thank you so much, Sahil, for that impressive presentation. And like I believe we enjoyed a lot, like listening and seeing how it works. And I actually enjoyed indeed myself when I saw that you implemented something similar to the
Mhm.
like code CLI agent,
CLI
which I
agents, yeah.
enjoy. Yeah, which I enjoy working with as well. So we have an option to post the
Mhm.
questions to our Slido channel. So if anyone still has any questions that are not there, please go ahead and ask, and we'll definitely address them. So we have few questions that has some likes there. So
Mhm.
let's start from first of them. Like will we be looking at agent development using vibe coding or custom integrations?
Yeah, here I'm assuming you're talking thank you for asking those questions. And I'm assuming over here we're talking about like just writing code for new agents. Honestly, I'm seeing everything on the spectrum. There are so many tools out there. I go to a lot of hackathons here in San Francisco, and there's like so many tools out there where you can simply just write in natural language, and the tool will ask you some back and forth questions, and then off comes your agent. The other day, in fact, I just built an agent using a tool called Autonomy. Autonomy.computer is their website, and it was a news fact check agent. So I was just interacting with it completely in natural language, vibe coding, and it went ahead and it deployed my agent in less than 20 minutes. So there are tools that can do the agent generation with simple vibe coding. They are limited in their capabilities. The custom integrations do allow you to bring in additional data, additional context, additional ability to execute. For example, if I want my review comments sent to Slack, maybe the review is happening elsewhere. I just want to make sure everything is in Slack. Then I will need to have a custom integration with Slack. So the short answer is there are tools out there that generate agents using vibe coding, but they are limited in capabilities. So if you want more advanced capabilities, as an example, a Slack integration, then you will need to rely on custom integrations.
Hmm. Yeah, good point. So we've got another interesting question here,
Mhm.
and it's about how do you handle context size limits when reviewing large pull requests with the LLM? Yeah, like considering we can have
Yeah.
huge code bases and huge pull requests as well. Like the if we especially if we're doing the vibe coding, those pull requests might yeah, might get pretty big.
Yeah. In general, it is an industry best practice to not have gigantic, large PRs. I consider myself a professional vibe coder. And the first PR that I vibe coded was, I don't know, 6 months, 9 months ago. That had 10,000 lines of code. And then my kind engineering colleagues were like, no, 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 you need to break it down into smaller features. And ideally, keep those around 3,000, 4,000 lines of code. But we have handled PRs that are about 120 files. I don't know if I will have a number of lines of code, but we are able to handle tens of thousands of lines of code, mostly by internally having an algorithm that breaks down your large PRs into hunks of little codes. And then we have their context, we review them, we build the context around them, compact and prune the context. The rate limit, the limit on the number of files essentially just comes from how many API calls we can make to GitHub. But we are able to handle PRs that are tens of thousands of lines of code and 100 to 120 files. Although in general, I would just recommend that is not a best practice. As a developer, I recommend keeping your PRs to no more than 40, 50 files per PR.
Yeah, makes sense. So actually splitting it up like to smaller chunks and then send it to LLM along with the context. Yeah, makes sense. So we've got another interesting one. What's the biggest apprehension new prospects tend to have about adopting CodeRabbit? And how does the team or the product alleviate these concerns?
Yeah, honestly, the number one question I get asked is about the speed or the lack thereof, which is that we do take 5, 7, 8 minutes because there are other products out there that advertise themselves as reviews in seconds. We actually don't review in seconds because good reviews take time. And so that's more of a GTM thing. That's more of our sales and marketing team trying to make sure that the customer understands there is a reason why your reviews are taking 5, 7, 10 minutes, and that's for your benefit. But otherwise, I also get asked questions around data security, data sovereignty. Are the LLMs going to be used to train on my code base? And the answer to that is we have agreements in place with both OpenAI and Anthropic. We mostly use OpenAI and Anthropic for the code reviews. And we have agreements in place with both of them that they are not going to train their LLMs on your code base, and we can share those with you. Lastly, we do have self-hosted container image. So we have big customers, Fortune 2000 companies, where data sovereignty is such a big concern. In that case, they run the container image.
Okay, yeah. So the next one. Is there a standard or best approach when it comes to creating a bug-free code? Oh, I think we just need to go to LLM and say, produce bug-free code, right?
Yeah. Yes, no, I've seen these memes so often, right? On Twitter and whatnot. People just making fun of. Honestly, no, there isn't. There isn't. As long as there will be LLMs, there will be code, there will be some bugs. So there isn't anything I would say as bug-free code, but you can reduce the bugs in your code. And the best practices, some of the best practices over there is make sure your reviewer is independent of your code generation agent. If the code generation agent introduce bugs, it will not be able to catch them effectively. Make sure that your specs are very clear. There are many tools out there. In fact, a lot of the coding agents themselves now, they have this planning feature, um, where they will take your comment, what you're trying to vibe code, and they will have a planning mode where before you even touch anything, Things will be broken down by front end and back end and architecture and user facing features and requirements and documentation. And that makes it a lot more clearer and cleaner for the LLM about what to implement. Those are some of the couple of best practices in terms of like when it comes to code reviews. Make sure you give us access to those requirements that you might have kept somewhere so that we can validate your code against those requirements.
Uh, okay, yeah, makes sense. So we have another one as well. Do issued tickets need to follow a CodeRabbit template to optimize the review process, or it's not
Not
a requirement?
not particularly, no. It's all natural language. But again, the more clearer your natural language instructions are in the ticket, the easier it will be for our agent to parse it. So while we don't have a specific template, follow the same best practices as you would do for spec-driven development, where your ticket says, here is the feature that is being implemented. Here are the different components of the feature that users can interact with. Here is what the expected outcome is. That'll just make it easier for the agent to parse it.
Okay, yeah. And another one. Does this also replace the need for tools like Dependabot?
Yeah, I was just quickly trying to search and remind myself of what exactly Dependabot does. So based on my quick Google search, it seems like Dependabot helps you keep your software dependencies up to date. I would say we are a little bit of an overlap, but a little bit also complementary in the sense that it will still be a second review layer. Did you actually upgrade, apply the latest software patch? Maybe you're using a certain HTTP certificate. Did that expire, or is your token still valid or not? It's just a second layer of doing that same analysis. But I can see why there will be some overlap between Dependabot and CodeRabbit.
Hmm. Okay, yeah. So the next question. Uh, like people are saying that CodeRabbit review approach sounds great, which I agree with. And how can I leverage a coding agent to fix issues? I need to minimize human touch. So how
Yeah,
we can
yeah. So that's
make it
that's
even more autonomous?
yes. So use in the CLI, use in the terminal, in the ID. If you're comfortable doing your development in the CLI, so that's the demo I showed right towards the end, where you can just tell your coding agent, Claude Code or Copilot or whatever, that hey, after you're done with your development, I need you to run CodeRabbit as an independent reviewer, and then incorporate the feedback from CodeRabbit, and the agent will execute that without any human touch. Or if you instead of CLI, if you're more comfortable with text-based editors like VS Code, then after CodeRabbit does the review, you will have that button that I showed, fixed with AI agent, and you click on that, and the review comment will go back to the to your coding agent. But in that case, you do have to come in and approve the comment. We do not actually recommend a fully automated process in the ID or in the PR until you've tried it and you're happy with the review comments. So give it a try. Make sure you are comfortable with the review comments. We are not claiming that the world is at a place where everything is 100% going to be perfect. That's why we recommend our customers use it. Make sure you're happy with it. If you're happy with it and you want to automate it, then do that in the CLI.
So we still want to have some human in the loop
Correct.
at this moment, at least. Um, so we have another one. How can I enable the coding agent to access extra documentation about libraries used in the project?
By default, we should pull in all the libraries that are accessible from your repo. You shouldn't have to do anything extra, but you can come in and create that as a path instruction. You can, for the path, you can just put the root of your repository, and you can then tell us in the path instruction, hey, go ahead and refer to these libraries, and that path instruction will be included in the review process.
Hmm, okay. Um, is there any limit on how many tokens used per month on CodeRabbit?
Right now, our pricing model is per developer per month fixed. So it's like $30 per developer per month for our pro tier. For our self-hosted customers, there's a more of a custom conversation because that's more of an enterprise level discussion. But $30 per month per developer, or the equivalent of $24 if you subscribe annually. So that will be 24 times 12. Um, and in that case, there is no such, we don't have token-based pricing. You just
Hmm.
pay flat monthly price.
Okay, makes sense. The another one that we've got here is what LLM model does CodeRabbit uses? I know you already answered
Codec,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
GPT-5 Codex and Sonnet 4.5 and Opus 4, 4.1, the latest version of Opus.
Okay. And there is a good one about MCP. Is CodeRabbit equipped to work with already built MCP servers out of the box?
Yep.
And what kind of human configuration is needed?
All you need to give is just the remote MCP server and OAuth token, and that's really it. Our MCP approach is extremely simple. It will work with any remote, not local, any remote MCP server. We just need your MCP server URL and an auth token.
Hmm. Sure. Yeah, pretty easy. That's me. That's what the MCP is built for, right?
Mhm,
To make our life easier.
mhm.
And what does the typical CodeRabbit customer profile looks like?
Everywhere from small startups to Fortune 2000 companies. Groupon, I shared, Chegg, Rolls Royce. These are some of the bigger ones. Smaller ones, obviously you might not have heard of, but that's the long tail of the customers. But the customer profile is typically either a vibe coder that is building stuff on their own, or an engineering manager who wants to make sure that there is a review quality guardrail for their whole team. And that team size could be anything. It could be 10, it could be 2000. We have teams who use us with less than 10 developers and teams who use us with 2000 developers.
Okay. And uh, the question from Richard McSherry, apparently someone is doing a startup.
Yeah.
So he says that CodeRabbit supports open source model, but do you also support early stage startups who have not yet raised any money?
If you are working with a startup accelerator, Y Combinator, or any of the others, then we do offer 50% discount for the first 3 months subscription. So in that case, the CodeRabbit Pro tier will become $15 per month for the first 3 months. You can look up CodeRabbit Startup Program and you will find the information over there.
And the follow-up question, is there a discount for student users?
Reach out to marketing at coderabbit.ai. We were literally about to implement that last week. I need to check with the rest of my team if it is live. We are working on it, but you can send an email to marketing at coderabbit.ai.
Okay, yeah, maybe they will give you some discounts. Why not? Uh, and we have few other questions, but I believe we are at time already, and I believe like we covered the majority of them that had some votes on it. And thank you so much, Sahil, for that insightful presentation. Like CodeRabbit is a great tool. I would definitely encourage everyone to give it a try and connect with Sahil. And if we'll have any questions, I believe he will be more than happy to answer you in the direct, LinkedIn, whatever other channels you might want to
Yes.
connect with him.
If there were any questions we couldn't get to today, please feel free to find me at LinkedIn, Sahil Code Rabbit. I should show up. There's only one Sahil in Code Rabbit. Or go to our website and you'll see a contact form there, and you can send your question from there, and we will be happy to answer. And thank you again so much for taking out time today. Thank you, Dimitri, for setting this up. It's been great having all these questions and sharing the latest in code reviews with our audience.
Thank you. Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.